that my Maverick News co-host Rick Walker is here, and I would love to bring Rick Walker into this conversation. Hello, up there in Canada, Mr. Walker. How you doing?
Well, greetings from the great what north.
Take off.
So, yeah, hoser.
Hoser.
I see things a little different than most of the people that I've been listening to. I think the best path to victory is for him to run as an independent, because politics is about marketing, branding, and numbers. And if he runs with the Libertarian Party, he will bring the party baggage with him on the branding side. You know, if you look at the numbers, third-party voters totaled about 8 million in the last couple of elections. You can't win with that. Even if you took all of the third-party voters, you still couldn't win with that. You'd need 10 times that. If you look at how the Libertarian Party has performed, you're in the last election, your candidate, Mr. Jorgensen, pulled about 1.2%.
Wait. Joe Jorgensen. Right? I'm sorry to interrupt, but Joe Jorgensen is a she. That's
sorry.
Joe
Okay.
As in female Joe.
Well, thank you. Yeah, forgive me as a Canuck, I'm not entirely familiar with your U.S. Libertarian Party, and that shows you too, right there, why he needs to run as an independent, because the Libertarian Party just doesn't get any media traction. There's very little awareness. Like I don't know that much about the Libertarian Party or any of the third parties. Everything I'm exposed to, which I think is probably a reflection more of what your average American voter, your normies would probably, I'd probably share their perspective. If you understand what I'm saying, you're not going to get the detail in there, right? But the point being, 1.2%. And then I think from the numbers I looked at, and correct me if I'm wrong, but your candidate in the previous election, Gary Johnson, 3.3. Again, it's not right, it's not even close to what you need. And so even though he has the name, I think that just, from my experience just working in politics here, it's about branding. So I don't think the Libertarian Party would help him on the branding. So yes, you have the organization, that's an asset, but he just would be so much further ahead running as an independent and branding himself. It's all about the branding and the marketing as a Kennedy Democrat, and really making it clear that he's sticking it to the Dems by running as an independent, using that as a marketing tool to turn the lemons into lemonade. That would be one of the key things. And if he has to be a write-in candidate in some states, turn that into an asset as well, and make that part of the marketing message, so that it's like, just, I don't know, even make up a jingle. Like, just write it in, Kennedy 2024. Just write it in. If you really want to make a change, just write it in. So if you just approach it from that angle, you can take those disadvantages and turn them into advantages, and really ride on his name. Turn the Kennedy name into the brand. And if the Libertarian Party wants to get him elected, then just put the whole party machine behind that. Turn the party machinery into a Kennedy machine, and don't attach the Libertarian brand to him. Let him run as a Kennedy Democrat, and you'll have a much easier path to victory. If you saddle him with the Libertarian brand, it will actually hurt him, because a lot of people will not vote for it because they want to vote for Coke or Pepsi, but they won't be able to overcome that bias, but they will vote for a Kennedy. It really comes down to that.
Great point.
So I hope that helps, but I'm sure he won't listen to me.
Well, I'm surprised, Rick. I thought you were going to advocate for him to run as a Republican. I'm surprised to hear you say that you'd rather see him go independent.
Well, he could run as a Republican. That could be an option. But, because if he did that, he would stand a chance of actually upsetting Trump. And
exactly.
and then he has the whole Republican brand and machinery behind him, in which case he has a very clear path to victory. Running as an independent is still a long shot, but I think it's he has an actual chance to win there. If he runs for any other third party, it's such a monumental task because he has to overcome that bias that the voters have and convince them that it's okay. It's not that much of a risk to vote for not just me, but the party. Because everything that he's bringing along with him, if he runs for the Libertarians, everything the Libertarian Party has ever been involved in, everything that people remember about it, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifference. So it's as an independent, people just know the name. It has the magic of Camelot attached to it. People are looking for something new and fresh, and even something from the past, which is new and fresh. It's like an opportunity for renewal, moving forward, a second chance even. And so there's gold in that, but not as a libertarian.
I see what you're saying, even though it hurts me as a longtime libertarian to admit it. I from the 30,000 foot view, when I try to look at it like the average voter out there would look at him, any party that he runs with, there's going to be some stigma. There's going to be some bias. And let's face it, a lot of people out there think the Libertarian Party is a joke. And at times, some of our candidates that we've nominated, quite frankly, are a joke. That's why I didn't vote for Gary Johnson in 2016. I voted for Trump, and I'm not a Republican, but I voted for Ron Paul several times when he ran as a Republican, even though he was a libertarian in his heart. I don't care what party he runs with. I'm going to support him no matter which party he runs with, if you're voting for the person, not the party. What do you think, Rick?
Well, I think that's all very valid. It also shows why he does actually have a path to victory, either as an independent or as a Republican candidate. He has appeal that, stretches across the political spectrum. So he will pull from all sides support. And as an independent, he'll probably pull more from the Republican side than he will from the Democrat side, honestly, because he's, as I've said many times, he isn't really a Democrat or a Republican. He's a populist, just as Trump is a populist more than a Republican. He's just taken over the party. And you may recall, I said a long time ago that the only way for RFK Jr. to secure the nomination within the DNC is he has to take over that party. Well, good luck, because those guys, they're ruthless and entrenched, and that's one powerful machine. And
it's a crime family. It's more than a machine. It's a crime family.
Yeah. So he said he wanted to get in there and fix the party. And I was like, you're not going to do that.
Not going to happen.
So I'm glad that he's leaving, honestly, to do whatever he's going to do. As I sit analyzing it, looking at it, that's how I assess it tonight.
Yeah, I always appreciate your insights, and you know what you speak of, because you've been involved in independent and third party politics there in Canada. for many, many years, working with the People's Party of Canada, which is a party that's actually had some success. You know, you have a long history.
The party's never had anybody elected. That's why I know so much about losing. Although I have to say that we did have a very strong candidate here in one of the 3 ridings that I've been the Electoral District Association president of in this part of Ontario. And, we ran the second best campaign in the entire country, came back from like when I took over the EDA here and helped recruit the candidate. The previous elections, it was like nothing. It was like not even registering, no money, no organization. And we built this into something that was substantial and matched the New Democrats in this area. So, in one election, we went from literally like nothing to matching the 3rd most powerful party in the country in this riding. So that was a real achievement for the candidate Liz and the team that we built here. So I'm really proud of everything that they accomplished.
I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of all of the coverage that we've done on the RFK Jr. campaign since it started. We went live when the media was ignoring him at Maverick News. We made sure to cover all of his major speeches. We covered his announcement in Boston. We gave him 4 hours. We did live team coverage. We send reporters out to his speeches and his events to cover them around the country. You've been a great help to me as we try to break through this Berlin Wall of media ignorance about this man. I think it's purposeful ignorance. They're ignoring him on purpose. But somebody's got to cover this campaign. And we're trying our damnedest at Maverick News. And I love your insights. I love working with you. And you can't even vote for the guy because you're not an American citizen. Right. You're up in Canada.
That's right. Yeah.
And you're a conservative. It would be rare for you to support a Democrat. But I know that you've taken an interest in his campaign as a former Trump guy yourself and as a conservative. And I really wanted to get the conservative perspective tonight on this panel.
Hey, man, you know what? Like, I'll tell you, I was all in on Trump, even as a Canadian, right? I thought, the first time around when he came down the escalator, I was all in on that because that to me represented a return to, an era of national pride, even though I'm not American. It was, it was a signal to return to some sort of economic prosperity and growth and hope for people in that way of, Americana, reconstituted. So I was all in on Trump, but the shine has worn off. And I'll tell you, you talking tonight about Adrian and the PSYOP and the mind control, which as you know, I've been looking into a lot of that myself on this subject.
Yeah.
And, I'm convinced that Donald Trump has made a deal with the devil with these QAnon folks. This thing runs much deeper than I think just about anybody realizes. And he's using that now as a base of support, which was not exactly what was going on when he, as I say, came down that escalator. Things have changed. It really bothers me what I'm seeing. And he's carrying now a lot of baggage from, Operation Warp Speed and the vaccines and all of the turmoil that comes with him. People are tired of it. So the shine definitely tarnished. He's not a sure thing, not by a long shot. He's got real hurdles to overcome. And, he mopped the floor with those opponents the first time around, right?
Yeah.
For the nomination. This time, not quite so much. And he's not even going into the debate. Yeah, he's still out in front, but he has people nipping at his heels. And when he goes into that election, he lost the last election. You can think what you want, one or the other, right? But one way or another, he's not in the White House.
That's right.
So, what makes you think it's going to be a whole lot different this time around? It's a knockdown, drag him out, you know, bare knuckles brawl again. He's no way to know. RFK Jr., breath of fresh air, something new. He brings hope and positivity back to the table. People don't want Biden. He has not performed well. He's everybody knows he's senile. They have no faith in him, really. Even Democrats don't want him. They'll vote for him. They'll hold their nose and do it. And it's the same thing on the Republican side with Trump. So
yes,
nobody's excited about any of these guys. RFK Jr. brings something more positive to the table.
That's right, Rick. And, we've talked a lot about polling on Maverick News, and the poll that really stands out, and all these polls seem to agree, that the number is around 55 to 60% of American voters say that if in 2024 it's going to be another matchup between Biden and Trump, that, almost 60% would vote for a third party or independent candidate if it was a good option. They would definitely consider a third option. So there's this big wide lane just open for somebody to emerge and be that independent candidate. And obviously that guy is RFK Jr., in my opinion. We talk about it a lot. My dream ticket, of course, is Kennedy with Tulsi Gabbard. And I've invited several of Tulsi's supporters to this space tonight. And I'm going to give you guys a chance to speak. In fact, if you would, anybody who would like to speak, I'm going to start opening the mic and let anybody who'd like to speak come up and say a few words. All you have to do is send a request to speak, and I'll get to you as we go down the list. And I see that Jay Scott has his hand up for a while. Jay, I wanted to bring you in and have a chance to introduce you to Rick Walker at last.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Lori. Yeah, the last time I was on Strange Bedfellows, Rick, your daughter was getting married. Congratulations, by the way. So, good to meet you. So,
great to meet you too.
Yes. Good. So, but yeah, this is a great topic. You're touching on, and I think that point you just highlighted, Lori, about 60% of voters, looking at a viable third option. When you combine that, with the surgence Kennedy has had, I do think most of the people right now who are already saying that they're going to vote for Kennedy would likely vote for him, no matter what ticket he's actually on, whether it's independent, Republican or Democrat, because they're already recognizing that the two options that are in front of us, are the likely options, Trump and Biden. Probably, most people realize those two aren't it. So, I do think, so I think the question then becomes, what's the best mechanism to actually get him elected? And, I've never, before the pandemic, it would be pretty hard for me to envision myself, supporting a Republican candidate. But, after, even though I had, liked a lot of the things Ron Paul said, he's probably the only one I had considered before. Now I think we're at a point in time where not just me, but a lot of people are realizing that because both parties are gone beyond repair, it's really about the person. So I think, figuring out what's the best strategic way to get in front of people, I think Pasta really hit the nail on the head about most people being low information voters. So there's an advantage to being on the ballot, whether that's through the Republican Party or the Libertarian ticket. I would just hope the campaign tries to focus some energy onto, instead of what side of the issues you're on. What's been working for him so far is focusing on the truth. So it's kind of like trying to get to the core of the issues so people really understand what's happening, and then suggesting solutions that tackle the core of the issues rather than focusing on the ideology. So I think if he can build whatever, and his strategy is heal the divide. So the whole concept of heal the divide is, the label doesn't really matter. It's about, accomplishing the end goal, like healing the divide to accomplish the end goal. So, I think his campaign already has a lot of the fundamentals to take its support to the best, take the support he has into the best mechanism to get him elected. So, I do think, I could see myself voting for him whether he's on a Republican ticket or a Libertarian ticket. So, yeah, I just hope that
100%.
yeah. And I think what Holden was touching on before about building a wider movement of people who were thinking the same way, I think, Kennedy really hit something by going directly at the truth. And I think the way he follows the money is actually what separates him even from someone who talks a little bit of the talk that Trump has. Like Trump will say he's against the elites. Trump will say he's against the globalists, but then he still says the vaccine is safe and effective, and all of a sudden he doesn't know who Julian Assange is. So,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. So Kennedy is actually talking about BlackRock. He's talking about Vanguard. He's talking about the CIA, and he's really trying to get to the mechanisms behind everything. And I think if he can inspire more people to actually, tackle it along that angle, I think that's how he can really build a movement. And he's already doing it, but I think that would be a really good strategy in building the movement and trying to help people understand it's not about the ideology, but the methods we're using to come to our political decisions. So I think if we can kind of strip some of these levels, because even you and I, Lori, like you're a libertarian, and we've had a few podcasts together, and now I see that you're not necessarily you're open to discussing like Medicare for all, which is something I wouldn't have imagined I would hear from a libertarian, to be honest with you. So
Right.
yeah, so I think removing the labels and really just talking about what are the numbers saying, what are the facts behind the situation saying, like is it possible for us to lower the amount we spend on healthcare if we find a way to distribute the costs, amongst a wider group of people? And what's the best mechanism to do that? If we like structure the conversations around solving the problems and getting to the core of issues, that's better than the ideology. Like, can he join a right leaning party or should he stay on the left? I think that conversation takes us down a bad path. But if we can focus on the methodology we're using to assess these issues, it requires a deeper level of concentration. I know that. And I know a lot of people think base level, but I think, if he can find a way to affect the culture, which is one reason why I'm doing the music, I want to try to like affect culture a little bit, myself. I think that is a good way to really get people thinking more about it, because we're probably less politically engaged in a lot of ways than people were in the 60s and 70s. So I think now that we have the internet, we could actually use it to organize and do things a lot better. But like it was pointed out before, the intelligence agencies are kind of manipulating the algorithms to keep us in front of cat videos and pranks instead of actually organizing and talking about these issues. But if we could find a way to, use it to get people more involved on the issues, then I do think we are in a unique time. If people can just tie the policy to their everyday lives, I think that's the biggest jump people don't make. They don't realize how politics affects their lives. Sorry for ranting. I think I went on a little too long, but
No, you're right. And we're using that technology right now, tonight, here on Twitter Spaces, which
exactly.
is a great tool for us to come together, to meet each other, to share ideas, to brainstorm, to determine the path that we want for the future and for the future of Bobby's campaign. And I know that he listens, unlike so many political candidates, Bobby really does listen to his base. He listens to what people are saying. And, I hope he's listening to these spaces and listens to what the people are saying, or at least this group of people. And we're trying to make it a regular thing so that, at least once a month, I'd like to do this. Some people want it every week, but man, I can't do this for 5 hours once a week. I'm too busy trying to get Robert F. Kennedy Jr. elected. That's why I don't have time to do this. But, something Rick said about Bobby running independent, and he was talking about branding, about, making Kennedy the brand. And I love that idea. I think that's the way to do it if he runs independent. Hell, he ought to just create his own party, call it the Kennedy Party, because this is something that's not Republican. It's not necessarily Democrat. It's not necessarily Libertarian. It is a coalition. And these are people who support the person, not a particular party. He wouldn't be pigeonholed, or labeled with the label of a party. Just the Kennedy party. I kind of like that idea, but that's just me. I will see if John McCarthy likes that idea. John, he's been in politics a long, long, long time. And he's had his hand up for a long, long, long time. So I want to bring him in. Hello, John.
Yeah, hey, it actually took me a while to figure out how to raise my hand. But so I just wanted to be brief. What I wanted to talk about is before I tuned into this space, I was listening to this meeting that Cold Pink just had the Peace in Ukraine Coalition in Washington, D.C. And there were a lot of good things about it. Like they have a day of lobbying on Capitol Hill tomorrow to stop funding for the Ukraine war, to push negotiations. They're actually doing a sit-in at Bernie Sanders' office to confront him to start being anti-war like he used to be. And that's good. But the point I wanted to make is, even though Medea Benjamin made a little speech about how peace should not be partisan, there were two presidential candidates there. The PSL candidate, I honestly forget her name, and then Cornel West. And why didn't they invite Bobby? I mean, it boggles my mind that you would have a meeting against the Ukraine war with presidential candidates, and you wouldn't have Bobby Kennedy there on the stage. And they treated, you mentioned Tulsi, they treated Tulsi the same way. They seem to have this blind spot for anybody who's not in the good graces of this NGO, foundation-funded, professional organizer class. They're afraid to touch. And it was kind of the same thing where, we had a celebration where we separated the Ukraine funding from the emergency spending bill, and that's a big victory. But the way they brought it up is only to say, like, they were mad that it wasn't progressive Democrats who did it. And there's this real blind spot where, we need to do like Kennedy is talking about, and bring all the people together across the political spectrum. This war, it could eliminate all life on the planet. And, if somebody's making progress toward ending it, we need to be banded together and supporting that. And they just seem to be, even though they're talking about being nonpartisan and they're doing good things, they seem to be a little partisan, or otherwise they would have invited Kennedy.
That's right. And, it's like, like we were just saying, I like the idea of not Kennedy Democrats or Kennedy Republicans or even Kennedy Libertarians. That's why when I take these spaces and I edit them and put them out as podcasts, the title of the podcast is Kennedy Americans, because that's what we are. Why put a label on ourselves? Most of us don't fit into any particular political box anymore.
Right.
We're Kennedy Americans.
And he's the only one. Okay, these other candidates they had up there, okay, they're against NATO and they're against sending arms to Ukraine. They're anti-war. But Kennedy is the only one talking about how you actually build a real peace. He's the only one. When he mentions the speech that his uncle gave, like he did at the Humanity for Peace conference, he's talking about fundamentally changing the relationship between the superpowers, and then we can stop wars one at a time, or we can fix what keeps leading us into wars. Like when he was talking about how Khrushchev and his uncle had to figure out a way to sneak around the palace guard that was surrounding both of them that wanted a war, and build a personal relationship. Okay, these other guys aren't talking about that, and you can't really be having an anti-war candidates meeting if you're not inviting him to the table.
Oops, sorry, I had my mic muted. I'm so sorry about that.
I basically said my piece. I'm done.
Okay, well, thanks so much. I always love having you on the panel. Thanks a lot, John. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you.
And I wanted to bring up, well, I thought I had added Matthew Tower as a speaker, but he just disappeared. I don't know where Matthew went. Maybe he'll be back here in a moment. But who else had their hand up? Did I see Holden's hand up? Did you have something to say, Holden? Jump in there.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in first just to say, Jay, I love the that you're making a song and taking that cultural approach like that. That seems like the way to go. I mean, politics just generally like turns people off so much today. You know, people want nothing to do with the culture wars, the partisan games. So you are on the right track, my friend, in taking that approach 100%. And I also wanted to mention the idea of new media. I forgot who mentioned it a couple minutes ago, but new platforms like here on X Spaces, podcasts, empowering Kennedy's campaign, like that is going to be key. It already has been, to his rise thus far. And that is going to be key because these podcasts have much, much greater reach than the debates even have. I mean, podcasts have basically replaced the corporate media debates in terms of how people hear about these things. And that it's also like, a lot of these podcasts are not explicitly political too. So you're reaching a lot of people who are not thinking about politics every day, not, in this world. I think that's going to be tremendous. But what I mostly wanted to say was just, I have to agree with Richard that I think independent is the way to go. Winning as an independent in and of itself would go a long way towards breaking down this duopoly mindset and getting people to accept, in their heads the idea of voting for new parties. Just him running as an independent, I think would go a long way in doing that. And it's about like meeting people where they are, right? Like 50% of the country's independent, or at least 50% of voters are independent. You want to just meet people where they are. And you can also I loved that in his letter to the DNC demanding, debates in a fair process, that he quoted George Washington's farewell address about parties, like seizing that message that our first president was independent. That is a really powerful message as well. But that's all I want to say. I'll be brief with this one. I feel like I've ranted a little bit tonight, but Lori, thank you so much for hosting this again. I'm really glad to have met you through these spaces. Sincerely admire the work you're doing with Maverick News and to advance this populist message and, reporting on the real issues this country is facing. So thank you for hosting this and for what you do.
Oh, thank you. That's sweet, Holden. Appreciate you very much. I appreciate all you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. And I just kind of want to open up the floor at this point, and anybody who wants to speak can speak. I'm going to go to Bryce Lipscomb, who is a big independent, obviously advocating for an independent run for Bobby, and former Ross Perot supporter. Some of you might remember, if you're old like me, you remember 1992 when Ross Perot shook up the world. Running as an independent candidate, and he got the largest vote count for an independent in history. I think it was 18 or 19% in the general election, which was pretty incredible. And I think that Bobby Kennedy could do even better than that this year. What do you think, Bryce?
Oh, I 100% agree with you, Lori, and I'm going to go even further. I think Kennedy can win. And I think Kennedy can win because Kennedy is best when we don't put him in a box. I want to push back on the ideas of running him as a Democrat or running him as a Republican, right? I think that America's tired of the duopoly. And we're looking for this third way. And 63% of Americans say that they identify as independent or they are registered unaffiliated. So and I'm going to tell you something. Since he's made this announcement, I have been, pushing this movement. I call it #follow the bison. And the buffalo, if you guys are, followers of politics, has always been the symbol for independence. And through this, I've gotten to meet so many amazing people. And what I'm hearing from these independents is they want a voice that's not run by anybody, that's not backed by any lobby, that's not backed by any foreign assets, that's not backed by any corporate greed. And they will abandon his campaign if he goes to the Republican Party, because there are people out there that they don't want to see that. He's not a Republican. We got to let Kennedy be Kennedy. And when he is independent, he is great. And I think that there is going to be this mass reckoning come October 9th when he announces in Philadelphia that he is going to run as an independent. There's going to be this rush to his campaign because we are fed up. We're tired of the divisiveness. And I'm going to push back also on the idea, just so you guys know, I put in from Ballotpedia what the requirements are for a independent candidate to get on the ballot for president in each state, and and the requirements for the third party. If you look at it and you read it, you will see that it's actually easier for an independent to gain ballot access than it is for a third party. Now, there's a reason for that, right? The duopoly, the Republicans and the Democrats, the thing that they fear most is a party that will one day replace them. What they don't fear is an individual, because that individual, they can, smear, they can do all that. And then, after that election, they probably won't have to deal with that individual again. Unfortunately, in 96, they had to deal with Ross Perot again. But that shows you, right? He went from an independent and got 19 million votes, 19% of the popular vote, and then immediately became a political party and got half of that. Now, that's also because they kept him out of the debates, but they did that because he decided to create a political party. And for those of you that have been in Republican politics, maybe some of you have, I'm a former delegate to the GOP. I can attest to those things. Republicans are more scared of a center-right organization coming after them, or a center-right political party coming after them, than they are one person. But if we can show that one person can change the world, we can make a difference. So let's not put Kennedy in a category. Let Kennedy be Kennedy, and let's all get behind him, and let's push him to the finish line, because that's what we need right now. I am terrified about what the future holds if Biden gets elected or Trump gets elected. I am terrified of it. But I know that if Kennedy gets elected, the CIA is going to have to shape up. The FBI is going to have to shape up. Police officers aren't going to be able to oppress people and steal their civil rights from them. I know that he's going to defend the little guy, and that excites me. So I'm asking you, follow the bison. Be independent. Think for yourself. Don't fall into these political party nonsense. George Washington warned us for a reason. Political parties are destroying this country. Tribalism is destroying this country. Let's all get on the bandwagon and free ourselves from tribalism and say no more. We will be independent. We will not vote the way that you tell us to vote. We're going to vote the way that we want to. And I believe, truthfully, that if we do that, there's nothing that we can't do. So thank you, Lori.
Oh, thank you. It's about time. I've been a third-party voter for 30 years. I left the Democratic Party in 1995. So I've just been waiting for my fellow Americans to catch up and wake up, realize that this two-party system is killing us, and it's everything that's wrong with our country. The third party or independent is the only way forward. And I think our fellow Americans are starting to realize that. They're starting to come to where we are. And we're all there together right now. And that's, former Republicans, former Democrats, former Libertarians. But I think the person I'm going to bring in next, Liberty, I don't know if you're still a Libertarian or a former Libertarian or what the heck you are these days. Tell me, Liberty, how are you?
Lori, thank you so much. And honestly, I'm American. I am done with political parties. I'm right there with Bryce. And really, he covered a lot of great ground in his conversation. But I will tell you this, October 9th, I do, like Bryce, hope that Robert Kennedy announces his run as an independent. But I'll take it a step further. I want him to ask everybody in the tribes, okay, third parties, to come and join as a fusion candidate. Ask their leadership in their parties to just say, you know what, we're not putting somebody else up. We're nominating Kennedy too. And let's turn it against the duopoly. They have the game rigged against all of us. They have gerrymandered districts. They have ballot access restrictions. They have voter restrictions. They remove ballot and polling places. They have played everything against us for so long. So why not? Let's unify behind Mr. Kennedy. He is asking us to heal the divide. He's asking us. It's not him that's going to do it. It's all of us, I think. That's the message that I hear from him. As a libertarian, at one point in time, when I was younger, I was Republican. I've moved through parties, and what I've learned is I find a lot of things wrong with them. For example, and not to stir pots, but the national divorce thing really bothers me in the libertarian area, because I think the way it's said is wrong. Not that the concept is wrong, but the way it's said is wrong. And I think because it puts out other Americans, it excludes other Americans, and I think that's where Mr. Kennedy is so special. He is pulling from the political spectrum because he is saying to everybody, similar to the way Tulsi did in 2020, everybody, let's come together. We are Americans first. Forget our tribes. Just like George Washington, advocated for, as Bryce indicated before. I think we can do it. There are laws, I know, everywhere. But if we can use fusion candidacy across the country, that eliminates the ballot access problem, right? So if a certain party doesn't have access, if you're nominated under another party that has access in that state, then they're on there. And the other thing that I think about is the third parties' futures themselves, right? They care about there's a lot of people invested there. So I don't want to just discredit them for the efforts they're doing. So if you look at federal election code, it says that to be a major party, you have to have 25% of the popular vote in the previous presidential election. So if you have a fusion candidacy, and again, I'm not an expert on regulation, I'm just reading it and trying to educate myself as I go along. I haven't found anything that's against fusion candidacy in the federal code that would disqualify those parties that participate in that concept as a major party the next cycle, because Kennedy's going to win. I truly believe that. I believe Americans are waking up and we are ready to break the duopoly, but I think we have to do it together, and we can't leave a single member of America behind. We need everybody. We need every third party, every independent, and we need to somehow convince the silent majority, the non-voters, to come out and vote for Mr. Kennedy. How do we do that? I'll stop now and listen to other ideas, because I'm not sure how we do that, but we really need it.
Gotta go viral. That's what I would say. Find ways to put them at the forefront of people's minds, and start something like a cultural movement around it. I think that's what he needs to do. So there are different ways to do that.
I think just welcoming other parties in too, because you don't see people being invited into movements like that. Politics is very divisive and tribal these days. So just the act of inviting people in, and I love how he refuses to attack Trump or Biden personally. Like that kind of energy will bring people in. So I think like saying it out loud, yeah. And then what Jay was saying, I completely agree with that too.
Yep.
Totally. And thank
Because
you so much for joining us, Liberty. I appreciate you. Unfortunately, I'm sort of running out of time. I promised myself this was going to be a 3-hour space, and we've already gone over time. But I tell you what, I'm going to keep it going for another half hour. And I want to get through all the people who have their hands up to speak. I've got 8 people requesting to speak. So as we go through the guest speakers, I'm just going to ask you, if you could, to please limit your time to about 3 minutes or less. If you could do that, that helps us move through the speakers a little bit quicker. And I wanted to bring in my friend Pamela, who I believe is down in my home state of Texas. Hello, Pamela. I'm glad you could make it tonight. You can unmute your mic and say hello and tell us what's on your mind.
Yes, hello. I'm so glad, Lori, that you have this space for all of us uh, to share in the RFK Jr.'s campaign. And I'm just so glad to be here tonight and say hello to all of my fellow RFK Jr. friends on Twitter. That's it.
That's it. That's all.
Well, that's it for now. Well,
I love it. Short, sweet, and to the point.
that
Love
way,
you.
that way, that way you don't wear out your welcome. That because if we talk about RFK Jr. or the Kennedy assassination or just the Kennedy family, I might get excited and start doing like Edith Bunker and telling long stories.
Yeah, I'm prone to telling long stories myself because I'm from
Okay.
Texas and it takes us forever to get to the point and we talk slow.
Yeah, that's
We're
right.
from the South, honey.
I know it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm from Luling, Texas, by the way, and I
Good
just
old
wanted to
Luling.
say this before it's and uh RFK Jr. on September 24th, he was in Bastrop, Texas, which
That's
is
right.
40 miles from my hometown of Luling, Texas, and so I wasn't going to miss that because it was close to my birthday. Well, a lot of people that know me know I love Elvis, but if you go to Graceland, really Elvis is not there. And so I was so excited to be at Bastrop, and I got my picture with RFK Jr. And I thought, man, he sure is thin. I thought with all those muscles, it would be different, but he was so skinny.
I saw that picture, by the way. That was a great picture. And I'm so glad that you got to see him. I'm surprised he was in Bastrop. I mean, for those of you not from Texas, Bastrop is not a major city.
It's
It's a
not.
pretty small
Oh,
small town.
yeah.
So he's going out to the real America. You see so many of these political campaigns. The candidates, only make stops in major cities. But one thing I really like about Bobby's campaign is I see him going to a lot of very small towns and that's the real America. He's visiting rural America. That's a place you'll never find Joe Biden or Donald Trump. So anyway, I'm going to move on to the next speaker. Pamela, thank you so much. And
Right.
I want to bring in Johnny
Bye bye.
Paradise.
Hello, hello.
Hey Johnny,
How's
how
it
are you
going? Can
tonight?
you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you loud and
Oh,
clear. Go
all
ahead.
right, all right. Yeah, thanks for the space tonight. A lot of great speakers. Really appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for raising awareness about this news with this guy Sparrow. I think you're right. That is super important. And yeah, it's unreal the way the media can just completely black out a story like that. The way they're blacking out a lot of things about RFK right now. A lot of people don't even know he's running. It's wild. So it's we were talking earlier about the people power. I heard Bobby say that there's 200,000 volunteers signed up through his website. So I think if they can mobilize those through phone banking or however, I think that's going to be a force to be reckoned with. But this challenge we have, Bobby's standing up against the biggest evil entities that are out there in my estimation. The war machine, big poison, Monsanto, big pharma, the whole medical cartel. And they own the media, so it's hard to overstate that. I think it's unbelievable how they get people to swallow the idea that a conspiracy is kind of a crazy thing to believe about. Like a conspiracy just means two or three people have a secret plan, or two or more people have a plan to do something illegal or immoral. And human nature being what it is, history's chock full of that, throughout all these corporations and government institutions. Big pharma, they paid $80 billion in, criminal penalties in the last 20 years. And somehow the media is able to get people to, swallow the idea they're the savior. So it is a formidable foe we're up against. I think they're going to do everything to lie, cheat, and steal this election from the people again, or from Bobby. And yeah, so I just invite people. You think Bobby's the real deal. I've gone down the rabbit hole. I think he's the real deal as well. And I just invite people to really kind of confirm their beliefs about him, because we need to spread the word about him. Our friends and family. I think that's going to be the key. You talk about the way a lot of campaigns run. It's a lot of door knocking and phone banking. But how much more impactful is it? Hearing about a candidate from a friend, or a loved one. So I think that's where a lot of our power lies. And yeah, just one more thing I wanted to share was, Bobby was recently tweeting about a documentary that came out today, Into the Weeds. It was about, his fight for, he spearheaded the fight to really, raise awareness about Monsanto's glyphosate, and all the farmers getting non-Hodgkin's lymphoma from that. $11 billion with a B is how much, the maker Monsanto is agreed to pay. Again, though, that's just a drop in the bucket for them. They're making about that much in profits every year. So, yeah, it's a big problem. And I'm just really happy for somebody like Bobby to be out there and raising awareness for this sort of issue. I think this is the cause of a lot of the health deficits we're seeing as a country. We're living 6 years less than our European counterparts. And I think it's in large part due to glyphosate. I think the science reflects that. So, yeah, I'm just happy you're in the fight with us, raising the awareness, Lori. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Johnny. I appreciate all you do, and I enjoy the X spaces that you host as well. And you reminded me that I wanted to talk about volunteering for the campaign. Anybody who's listening tonight, we really do need volunteers. After Bobby makes his big announcement in Philadelphia on October the 9th, we're going to be having like a nationwide volunteer meeting. It'll be like a nationwide Zoom call on October the 10th, the very next day. And that's when we're going to be getting our ground game together. And we're going to need people. We need boots on the ground. We need people to do that phone banking, text message banking, going door to door, canvassing. This is when and most of all, probably collecting signatures to get him on the ballot in all 50 states. We're going to need an army of people. And we really do need you to volunteer if you haven't already. Or if you've been considering it, now would be a good time to go ahead and sign up and, help us out. We desperately need your help. Some people just give money. They just donate and they think that that's all they need to do. Some people donate and volunteer. Some people don't have money to donate. In this economy, it's damn hard to even spare $5 for a lot of people. If you can't donate, you can always volunteer. I think that's even more an even better use, a more valuable contribution is volunteering the most precious thing that you have, which is your time and your energy. And if you're as excited as we are about this campaign, we need you. So if you'd like to volunteer, you'd like to join my team, I'd love to have you. Just go to Kennedy24.com/Lori Spencer, and you can sign up to be on my team or donate a few bucks or buy some campaign merch. I always say this in every space, and I'm plugging the merch because, one of the greatest ways that we can reach out to people in the real world as we go about our day and we're out and about, wear a Kennedy t-shirt. It'll start a conversation everywhere you go. It's a great way to meet new people right there in your area, exchange phone numbers, exchange email addresses with that person. That's how we build our network is meeting new people. And we turn those people into volunteers and donors and voters. And one of the best things you can do is put a flag outside your house, start a conversation with your neighbors, put a sign in your yard, slap a bumper sticker on your car, wear a Kennedy t-shirt. People will notice you and they'll say, hey, what's with the t-shirt? I kind of like Kennedy. Tell me more about Kennedy. And you can be an ambassador for the brand, as Rick said earlier, of, the Kennedy campaign. So I did want to encourage that. And I see I've got a couple of folks here who have their hands up asking to speak. And I'm going to go to Greg. I just added Greg as a speaker, and you can unmute your mic and introduce yourself and tell us what's on your mind. Welcome, Greg.
Hey, everyone. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm a big fan, of course. And I got to say, over the last few years, I've worked with some third party candidates and people that haven't been part of the two-party system. I've built the app for Andrew Yang, Yang 2020. I've met Tulsi twice this year. I even met Ramaswamy, who I think is a very interesting candidate on the Republican side. But in any case, I really think that, the United States has become sort of this polarized thing because of social media and how, they chase controversy, and the media that has to get their stories out. They need clickbait, they need outrage to sell. And unfortunately, that leads to people forming camps and sharing one-sided stories. So I'm a big fan of it. If you guys ever need, definitely contact me. I'm happy to put together an app. But I just want to say two things. If you're going to run a campaign that's independent, you need to do what's called vote pairing, which basically gets a Democrat and a Republican paired up. Because what I've seen, especially with Andrew Yang's campaign and others, is that they say, oh, you're siphoning votes from, our party. It's very important to send the message that, no, actually, this cuts across political divides and everyone is sort of joining hands across the aisle to go after this. So anyway, if you're interested, I'm very happy to help and very motivated because we absolutely need more choices in this country.
I love that. Yeah, and so you're so right. I'm so glad that you joined the space. And I hope that you'll join us on future spaces. We're going to try and do this once a month or so. And I would love to have you back anytime. You're a welcome and a breath of fresh air.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
If you want, follow me. I'll DM you. I'll send you some stuff.
Oh, yeah. Gosh, are we not following each other? Nope, I'm not following you, but I just fixed that. So I'm following you now.
Oh, perfect. All right. Very
Drop
good
me a
to
line.
meet you all. Yes, absolutely.
All right. Great to meet you, Greg. And I'm going to go to Sherelle, our friend Sherelle, who's becoming a regular in these spaces. Let me send you a speaker's invite and add you to the panel. And you can unmute your mic now and say hello. Good evening, Cheryl. How are you?
Oh, hi, Lori. I didn't see my little
Hey
yellow
there.
hand there. I didn't think I was on. Thanks for having me on. I'm concerned about the security issue too. And at this point, I trust Gavin DeBecker more than the Secret Service. They're feds. And obviously he's not getting Secret Service now. But I'm wondering why there isn't like a separate fund just for security. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people who love Bobby, but maybe don't want to support his campaign, like his family or. But I thought I heard Gavin
That's a great
say
idea.
that he can't, giving him free, pro bono, it violates election laws, which doesn't make sense to me. I don't know if that's true or not. So your thoughts? Lori? Oh, there.
Sorry, I had my microphone muted. Sorry about
Okay.
that. It's I have not looked at the latest FEC disclosures. We just had the close of the quarter on September 30th, and if those documents are even available yet, I usually go through them with a fine-tooth comb. Because of course I'm a reporter. I follow the money. I'm always curious to see how the money is coming in and how it's going out. And one of the interesting things about the first quarter of the campaign was that Gavin DeBecker made a personal donation from his own money of like $5 million. And of course, there are campaign finance laws that would prohibit him from giving that to the campaign, but he instead donated it to the American Values Super PAC, because there's no limit on how much you can give to a super PAC. Mm-hmm. So the way I perceived that was kind of Gavin DeBecker essentially, in a way, donating his services. I don't know if that's how it was classified, but either I know he loves Bobby and he supports Bobby and wants to help him, and $5 million is an extremely generous donation. And maybe that was sort of earnest money, if you will, to say, I will protect you until the Secret Service comes in and kind of takes over your security, right? That would kind of get him going for those first 3 months while he was applying for Secret Service protection. And everyone just naturally assumed that there would be Secret Service protection within a few months, right? And then that didn't happen. And here we are 6 months into the campaign, closing out the second quarter, and still no Secret Service protection. Now, of course, Gavin DeBecker and Associates are the best, the very best, and the very best security costs a lot of money. I don't know if Gavin DeBecker can continue to afford to pay or donate security to that level. I don't know if he could continue to, pitch in $5 million a quarter. So that's why the fundraising is so important. Bobby can't afford it out of his own pocket. Obviously, the people are going to have to come through for him. And when I get a chance,
right.
Yeah, go ahead.
But that's why I'm saying a separate fund apart from campaign donations. Because there's probably a lot of rich people that love him, but maybe they're diehard Democrats, and but they don't want to see him die. So, it would be like separate from the campaign, but it could pay Gavin for his work.
And after what just happened and that event in Los Angeles with Adrian Paul Aspiro, I'm more convinced now than ever that Gavin DeBecker and Associates are worth every penny.
Yes,
and whatever we're paying them, it's probably not enough.
Right.
They do an amazing job, and they're worth every single penny that the campaign is paying them. But it is draining our coffers very quickly, and I do believe that Joe Biden is using the lack of Secret Service protection and the cost of security as a weapon against Bobby to weaken his campaign. So yeah, that's very troubling to me. And it occurred to me last night, Sherelle, that let's bear in mind, President Biden can literally grant Secret Service protection to anybody that he wants with the stroke of a pen. The president has the power. I mean, if Joe Biden wanted to give his dog trainer Secret Service protection, he could literally do that with the stroke of a pen. Anybody for any reason whatsoever, the president of the United States has the power to grant them Secret Service protection. Now, Kennedy and Biden apparently have been friends for years and years, right? You would think that Joe Biden would just do this as a favor to his old friend, Mr. Kennedy.
I really don't think Biden is in control anymore, and I honestly doubt he's going to be the nominee in November next year.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't see how he can possibly handle the rigors and the stress physically of a campaign. I totally agree with you. How they're going to get him to the finish line, that's a mystery to me. But I think that the only other way to get Bobby the Secret Service protection that he needs and that he is entitled to, and is making all the benchmarks to qualify for it, it would literally take an act of Congress. I mean, that's where we are now. Congress, if they would pass it, they could literally order the Secret Service to protect this man.
But will they? No,
will they?
I don't think they will. I think that's So anyway, that was all I wanted to say. My pitch for a separate fund for his security, that people that love him but necessarily don't like his campaign, can also donate to, and it wouldn't have anything to do with campaign finance. It would just be to protect him.
That's a great idea. I mean, maybe even create a PAC for that or something like that.
Yes.
I'm not sure how it would work, but I really like the idea, and I'm going to put that idea in the ears of a few people. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay, thanks. Well, that's all I had to say for tonight. So thanks for having me on.
Thank you, my friend. It's always great talking to you. Thanks for joining this space.
Okay. Sure.
Bye-bye. And let's see. I see Aaron has his hand up. Aaron, you want to go ahead with your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you. I've been having some technical difficulties tonight, so I appreciate you get me back up here. Which I never had before I got Twitter Blue, by the way. My stuff ran perfectly, and then I got Twitter Blue, and all of a sudden I've had all these glitches. But you guys kind of made a point that I was just going to make, was that do we really want the Secret Service protecting Mr. Kennedy? Because like we don't trust our government. So what makes you think you can trust the Secret Service to protect him? He's almost better off going with a private and private security that actually believe in his cause, that want to look out for his cause. That's it, a lot of these people that he's gonna be, that are gonna protect him probably want to protect him, probably want to have this change that we're talking about. And one thing I like I said, I'm not on the bandwagon yet because it's early in the race and there's a lot can happen. And I don't know enough about Mr. Kennedy. He seems like he's up my alley though, because he's an anti-corruption lawyer, right? Which is my bread and butter about, like I think we need to have accountability for those that have done so many corrupt things too. It's not just about fixing the corruption, it's about holding some of these people accountable. And also, there's been a lot of talk about him reaching out to third party independents. I think he should a lot of people go, hey, we need to get Republican and Democrat voters, but there's a huge base out there like me who have never voted who he needs to get to and it needs to be like the poor and working class, because that's the ones that are really hurting the most. And if you want to affect change, you need to know what their needs are. So he needs to reach out to the poor and working class communities and not so much the rich people. And I think that's if you really want to connect and get the American people behind you in a campaign, that's what you have to do. Is you have to go after the independents, the poor and working class that really feel the frustration and the brunt of all these policies. I talk about it all the time in my spaces. These things on a national level do affect us locally. And especially when it comes to subsidies for billionaires. I live in a town right now. They gave $125 million in grants and loans to this factory next door. But we're never going to get that money back in our community. You know what I'm saying? Like they're never going to generate that type of money back into this community. So that's the kind of stuff that I want to see addressed. And I think many people want to see addressed and stay out of the, it's almost better that he's running as an independent, because you know what, going through the primary debates, he's going to have a lot of mud slung at him because there's going to be a lot of people. He's going to have a huge target on his back. It's almost better that he avoids that until he gets to the presidential debates, because then, they're going to be shooting arrows at each other too. And he can kind of miss some of that too.
Well, you're right in that the debates, that's something we really haven't talked about tonight. As an independent, it's damn near impossible to get on the debate stage. Also, third party. And I invited Christina Tobin tonight of Free and Equal Elections. I was hoping she could join us. Unfortunately, she had a schedule conflict and could not be here. But Christina, and they're organizing third party and independent candidate debates for 2024. They've been doing this for, I think, 15 years or more. They're really, really good at it. And the first debate is already set for early December. I can't announce yet who the moderator is going to be, but let's just say it's a pretty big celebrity with a big following and will bring a big, big audience. It's very exciting, and an announcement on that is coming soon, so stay tuned for that. But the first debates will be in early December, and I presume that Bobby Kennedy will be participating in that debate. I know he's in direct contact with Christina, and that they're talking about it. So it sounds like that is probably going to happen. Not confirmed yet, but I feel pretty confident that that's going to happen. And that's exactly what we need as an independent. As far as the televised debates in the fall of 2024, it's always the Republican and the Democrat. And the reason for that, all the Ross Perot supporters out there know what I'm talking about. It's the Ross Perot effect. The reason that Ross Perot did so well in the 1992 general election was because he was impressive in the debates that fall. And after that, in 1996, when Ross Perot ran for president a second time, they literally changed the debate rules, the Commission on Presidential Debates, to keep Perot off the debate stage. And, when Ralph Nader ran as a third party candidate in the year 2000, he tried very hard to get on the debate stage. He even literally went to the debate hall the night that they were holding the debates, and he had a press pass that someone from Fox News had given him. He showed up at the door, and security told him to leave or he would be arrested. And so Ralph left instead of getting arrested that night, but he went there to make a point that you couldn't get on a debate stage if you were an independent candidate. So that's going to be a major hurdle that Kennedy has to face if he's going to run independent or third party, is how does he get his message out on TV in front of millions of Americans? Do you have any thoughts on that, Aaron?
Yeah, I agree with the debate. I mentioned the debate at the end because I think it's inevitable if he gets enough momentum. At some point, they'll have to have him, even if it's like that. Was it three debates, right? I think so. Yeah, by the third one, he might get there. But like, I think it's more effective, like Holden brought up earlier, about doing the podcast and doing the spaces and everything. These spaces are a great space to get in touch with real voters and real people who have real problems that he can speak to them with. And the
Yeah.
podcast, like Joe Rogan has more of a reach than any debate will have. What I mean? Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn's another one that does a lot of, these kind of names that are becoming mainstream in their own way, in their own mainstream. And like there's a bunch of us coming up too that are getting growing and getting bigger and everything like that. So I think he's smart to tap into that because that's only going to get more and more prevalent, and not just this election, but the elections in the future. And this is kind of setting the groundwork from how we can build from that now.
Right on point, as always. That's why I love having you on these spaces, Aaron. You always bring really great ideas to the table, and thank you so much for that. I'm going to move on to Tyler. Tyler wanted to speak. You want to unmute your microphone and say hi to everybody? Tell us what's on your mind tonight, Tyler.
Hey, everyone, and it's been a great space. I've been listening to it a lot, actually. I'm a rideshare driver, and I've been making everyone I've been force feeding this information to people all night on the way to their destinations. But you kind of touched on what I was going to ask earlier. I'm in the Atlanta area in Georgia, and I'm trying to connect with people in the area to kind of get a movement going. So I guess I'll kind of keep my eye out for that October 10th Zoom call. I have volunteered for the campaign. This is probably the most excited I've been about a political candidate in a long time. So I don't know if you know anyone in Georgia who's looking for some help spreading the word. I'd definitely be interested.
That's awesome. I don't know if you've already signed up for the they're going to send you a Zoom link for that volunteer meeting on the 10th. You have to go to Kennedy 24 and you sign up to basically, indicate that you want to participate in the meeting. And then I think the day of the meeting, they're going to send the Zoom link out to everybody.
Okay. So
if you haven't done that, be sure to sign up.
If I filled out the forms and all that, is that something, or do I go specifically for this Zoom call? Because I filled out.
Yeah, it's something you have to specifically sign up for to participate in the call.
Okay.
Yeah,
I will do that tonight then.
And you can find it on the website pretty easily. If you look under the top menu, Get Involved, you should find it there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'll do that tonight.
My pleasure. And thank you so much for taking part in this space, Tyler. I appreciate you. And I think I'm going to wrap it up for the night, folks. It's been another marathon, and I loved every minute of it. I love talking to you guys. I love these spaces. It's always such a positive experience. So many great guests. My thanks to Craig Pasta Jardula, to Caleb Maupin, to Jose Vega, to Kynan Thistlethwaite, to Diane Sayre, to Anastasia Battle, to Matthew Tower and Jay Scott. And boy, I'm trying to remember everybody. Holden Collada, all of you who participated in the Q&A session. And I hope you'll join me this Saturday night. I do a podcast on Saturday nights, 9:00 Eastern, called Strange Bedfellows. I always say Bobby's the strange bedfellows candidate. If politics makes strange bedfellows, here we all are: Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Greens, people who would normally be fighting with each other in previous years. Here we are coming together, and I think it's a beautiful thing. And the point of Strange Bedfellows is we bring together political opposites and have a good conversation. It's not a debate show. We just try and find our points of agreement. We try to find common ground, and often we do. And my guest this Saturday night will be Tyler Nixon. The great Tyler Nixon will be joining us. He's a conservative, and we're going to have a great conversation on Strange Bedfellows. He's been here in the space tonight listening. Hi, Tyler. I see you. And I look forward to speaking with you Saturday night on the show. Once again, my thanks to everyone who tuned in. I hope that you will donate to the Kennedy campaign, volunteer, go to kennedy24.com/Lori Spencer if you'd like to join my team. And once again, my thanks to everyone. Here in the next few days, I'll take this Twitter space and I'll edit it into some shorter episodes and release them as podcasts. Of course, most people can't sit through a 4-hour meeting like we diehards can, so I like to kind of cut it up into more digestible shorter 1 hour episodes. So you can find those at our Kennedy Americans Rumble channel. I don't have them posted on YouTube, folks, because as you know, YouTube censors Robert Kennedy heavily. I've had my videos and news reports about Kennedy censored on that platform. I've had them remove them. They actually struck my whole channel. They took down my whole channel on YouTube strictly for my reporting on the RFK campaign. So to heck with YouTube. And Bobby is suing them right now for censoring him and his campaign, even as we speak. So we're going to Rumble. And you can find all episodes of the Kennedy Americans podcast at rumble.com/Kennedy Americans. That's the name of the show. And we'll have this one posted here in the next few days. I'll start releasing episodes. Also, if you missed any of this Twitter space, it's been a long one. In the first hour, if you're interested in finding out more about Adrian Paul Aspiro, the heavily armed man who was arrested at one of Bobby's events in Los Angeles last month. Some really interesting updates on his case. He was in court today. I covered it, and I brought some fascinating updates in the first hour of this space. So if you missed that, you can go back and catch the replay at any time. This space was recorded, so after the space ends, you can go back and listen to the replay and catch anything that you might have missed. And please do share this space. I hope you'll retweet it. If you enjoyed it, please share it with others. This is a great way for people to find out what Kennedy's all about and what this movement is all about. And that's the reason I do these spaces. And if you'd like to support me, obviously it's a lot of work, a lot of effort, and a lot of time. And I'm independent. Nobody pays me. The Kennedy campaign does not pay me to do this. I'm doing this as a volunteer, folks. And if you appreciate all the effort that I'm putting in, you can always support me with a donation at strangebedfellowspodcast.com. So once again, my thanks, and we'll see you back here soon for another Twitter space or X space or whatever the heck we're calling this thing these days. I guess it's an X space now. But I hope everyone has a wonderful night. Good night, everybody.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.